Hi and welcome again. The next thing we want to do is to add authentication to our GET requests. That is the route to fetch all books and to fetch single books. Currently, all we're doing is allowing the users to sign up and log in. What we now want to do is to add a functionality where only logged in users can access the books, and that means users that send in a correct authorization token. So what we want to do is um, in our code here, we want to create a middleware that will check if the user is sending a token, and if that user is sending a token, we want to check if it's a correct token. If it is correct, the user can continue with the request. Otherwise, we want to send back an error response to the user. So I'm going to create a new file. I have a new folder here called middlewares. So I'm going to create a new file in middlewares called authentication.js. I'm going to be writing my middleware inside of this file. So I'm going to create a function exports dot authenticate user, and that function is going to be is going to take in three parameters: request, response, and next. So in Node.js applications, middlewares often have this third parameter called next. Sometimes it's a second parameter, sometimes a third parameter. But the basic thing it does is that when the conditions in this function are fulfilled, it's going to call another function, which is the function placed beside it. I'm going to show you how it works after we've created this. So what we want to do is check if there is an authorization token and decode the token and check if it is valid, and then allow user to continue with requests. So the first thing we want to do is check if the user is sending an authorization token. So we just do that by saying if there is no request.headers.authorization, we want to send back an error, return res.status 41.json, and the message will be authorization header required, and otherwise let's just allow the user to continue. So this is how it's called next. So to use this, would usually use this in the routes. So I'm going to head over to the routes file here, the book routes, and then I'm going to require that middleware const. Um, Let me do it like this. Um, Require, and I'm going to navigate to the middlewares folder and authentication file. Okay, I can say I have it spelled wrongly. Should be authentication with an I right here. So I'm going to, yes, so this is corrected now. So I want it to fetch the authenticate user middleware. And now to use this, if I place this function right here, authenticates user, and add a comma here. So this is how the middlewares are designed to work. So when the user tries to send a get request to slash books, um, this function is going to be called first, authenticate user. And if there is nothing stopping this function from continuing, which means if it has checked that there is an authorization header, it's going to call next. And next in this case is this function book controller dot fetch books. So after it checks authenticate user and all the conditions here are met, it calls the next function. So that is what the next parameter does. It just calls the next function in the stack, which is this fetch books function here. So what we will do now is save this. I'm going to save all from here. And then I'm going to head over to Postman and try to send a get request to slash books again. But this time you'll notice that there is no authorization header in this request. So if I send this, now I get an error, authorization header required. And if I send a header authorization and I just send some text here, now it allows me to go on with my request. So that is just how the authorization is going to work. Now let's make it more accurate. We do not just want the user to send any token. We want the user to send a valid JWT. So let's head back here. So if the user sends a token, we also want to check that the user is sending it in the correct format. Remember, the format is going to be sent as bearer with the token, just like this. So the user has to send it in this format. So let's check if the user is sending it in this format. So let's do that by splitting the string. Uh, let's splitted header be equal to request.headers dot authorization dot split, and it's going to split it where it finds this empty space here. And let's just say if the first element, of course, you know that this splitted header is going to be an array. Let me log that to the console so you can confirm that. Splitted header. And let's send this request again. And in the console, you can see that it is an array that contains bearer and the token. So we want to always check that this first element is indeed this string bearer. So what we can do, a basic way we can just do that is to say if the first element splitted header at index 0 is not equal to bearer, let's just send back uh, return rest.json and let the message be authorization format is bearer and token. And let's make the status 401 again. And let's save this and send this request again. Okay, we do not get an error. But if I send just a token without the bearer prefix, now it sends an error that the authorization format is bearer and token. All right, great. So now let's check if the token sent is correct. Let's do that by saying um, let token equals splitted header at index 1. And now let's say, now we need to use the JWT module. So let's require const JWT equals require JSON web token. And we also need to have the secret that was used earlier on. So let me just copy this and paste it right here. So now we can say JWT dot verify token and the secret, and then we can pass a callback that takes in the error and the coded token. And if there's an error, return res.status 500.json error. If there is no found user, that is, the token was not decoded to get a user, we can just say return res.status 401 again .json, and this time we want our message to be invalid authorization token, please log in. Else the user was found and we just want them to continue with their request, so we just call next. All right, so um, let's run this. um, and if it's valid, allow the user to continue with requests. And so let's save and then send our request again. Okay, now we can send in the correct format, bearer and token. Now the error is that the JWT is malformed, which means I'm sending a wrong token format. So let's send one from uh, the login we made, or let's log in again and get a fresh token. All right, and now let's use this token. Um, and then the request is sent correctly. Now let me try to um, make this token incorrect by deleting a few characters and then sending. You can see it says invalid signature. So it's always going to proceed with the request if only uh, the token is correct. So I can use this in another route. I can use this equally in the fetch single book route. So I can just say authenticate user, and then I can save this and try to send a request to /books/ this ID. And if I do not have my requests authentication headers, you can see it bounces me back. So this is the basic way to um, achieve authorization on your routes. So that makes it possible for you to have routes without sorry, I meant routes that users cannot access without authorization. So in the next lesson, we'll try to go a little further in authorization by using role-based authorization. and I'll see you in that lesson.